They always told you that you were incomplete, that you were unfinished, that you were not enough, that you were lacking. And you believed it. But Allah does not create anything incomplete. Those who make you feel incomplete are the ones who make you forget the names of Allah. Ibn Arabi says, when a person begins to define their existence through the words of others, they become a prisoner of the nafs, lower self. Because then, you no longer see yourself through Allah's eyes, but through the eyes of people. And those eyes are often blind. The words of someone who sees you as lacking cannot erase the name Allah has written for you. But if you internalize that voice over time, you begin to deny your own truth. And the deepest kind of loneliness is to reject your own existence. A sentence begins to grow in the depths of your heart. I am not enough. Sometimes you say it out loud, sometimes you just feel it. Sometimes all your relationships are built upon that sentence. But Allah says, I am sufficient for my servant. I am enough. I am El-Kafi. According to the Sufi masters, this name does not only express Allah's power, it also reveals the completeness of the servant. Because Allah does not leave incomplete what He creates with His name. The feeling of inadequacy is not just a psychological break. It is a forgetting of your true being. What makes you forget who you are, in truth, alienates you from Allah. In modern psychology, this is called the schema of inadequacy. It forms in childhood. A child who is not loved enough, constantly criticized, compared, grows up always feeling incomplete. And this sense of lack doesn't echo in the mind, but in the heart. According to Ibn Arabi, this is a veil of belief draped over the heart. A heart that cannot hear that Allah is El-Kafi is always trying to complete something, always feeling lacking, always searching for someone's approval. But the real need is not the approval of people. It is the sufficiency of Allah. Only Allah can fill your place, because only He truly knows you. He sees not your lack, but the balance He instilled in you. Psychologist Kristen Neff defines self-compassion as this: being kind to yourself is the first step of inner healing. In Sufism, this self-compassion is only possible by knowing the divine names, because someone who sees the worth Allah has given them can no longer treat themselves harshly. Ibn Arabi's system teaches us this: the self within you is a door that opens to the divine names, and behind that door lies kifaya, the sufficiency of Allah, the divine balance that completes you, the peace of being created whole. But your eyes get caught on the scales of others, their approval, their love, their measures. And when you weigh yourself by their standards, you always come up short. Because the scale of humans cannot carry the gaze of Allah. Rumi says, do not search for yourself in the eyes of another. Their lenses may be dirty, and you will see yourself in darkness. Yet you were brought into being with the name of Allah. And that name does not give you lack. It gives you completeness. The fact that others do not understand you does not make you incomplete, because the one who created you has already made you whole. One who knows the name El-Kafi begins to ask, through whose eyes am I looking at myself? With whose voice am I speaking inside? Whose judgment am I mistaking for Allah's decree? And these questions begin to break the chains of inadequacy. Sufism says, the veil between you and Allah is made of the judgments you mistakenly believe are your own. And those judgments make you appear incomplete, But Allah says, I created you whole. I did not attribute deficiency to you. You are the one who forgot yourself. In Sufism, remembrance is not just a return, it is a resurrection. It is the return to yourself, the awakening to the divine names, Azma, and this awakening is the end of the feeling of insufficiency. That's why the Sufi prays not when they feel lacking, but when they forget. Because inadequacy is not the product of Allah, but of your forgetfulness. Have you ever asked yourself again and again, why do I feel this way? Why does something always feel missing? Why can't I be whole? These questions come from deep within your soul, but you often search for the answers outside. Yet the feeling of lack is not something that comes from outside. It is an unaccepted memory on the inside. It begins where you forget yourself. According to Ibn Arabi, when a person hands over their sense of self to the judgment of another, they lose the ability to see their own truth. And you do the same. You believe not in yourself, but in how others see you. And when they say you're not enough, you bow your head and accept it. But the name El-Kafi is a divine name that breaks this surrender, because Allah's sufficiency is stronger than your belief in your own deficiency. Modern psychologists trace the roots of this feeling to specific events in childhood. A critical sentence spoken at the wrong moment, a missing word of praise, an absent affirmation. These moments give birth to a belief in a child's mind. I'm not enough. And this belief grows, becomes a system, turns into a personality. That voice is now inside you. A judgment from the outside has become an echo on the inside. Psychologists call it the internalized critical voice. Sufism calls it the ruling of the nafs, lower self. The nafs erases Allah's decree and replaces it with its own words. You are lacking. You'll never succeed. Who do you think you are? And you forget that this voice is not from your Lord. But Ibn Arabi reminds us, the servant can be mistaken in everything they believe they know about themselves, because the truth lies only in Allah's knowledge. Your judgment of yourself may not align with the divine measure Allah has set for you. When you say, I am not enough, Allah may be saying, but I am sufficient for you. The name El-Kafi doesn't only mean Allah is enough for me. It also means, even in my incompleteness, His completeness is present. Where you fall short, Allah is there. Where you decrease, His name's complete. With your flaws, His mercy arrives. Where you tighten, His vastness begins. Rumi expresses it like this: you think you are broken, but Allah makes you whole precisely through that broken place. Because the sufficiency of Allah reaches all the way to your breaking point. It includes it, and it heals it. From a Sufi perspective, the reason a person feels inadequate is because they are watching themselves through their own eyes. But true seeing is seeing through Allah's eyes, seeing with the names. When you say to yourself, I am nothing, Allah may be saying, you exist by me. When you say, I am weak, He may be saying, I have strengthened you with my power. But you do not hear it, because you are watching yourself in the mirror of someone else. Ibn Arabi says, a mirror shows you where you are looking, but if the gaze does not reflect the truth, the image will deceive you. And that is what people do. They look into deceptive mirrors to judge themselves, and those judgments become life, become relationships, become wounds, become beliefs. But the divine names are a different kind of mirror. The form Allah shows you in that mirror is not flawed, not broken, not incomplete. In that form, there is the light of the name El-Kafi, a light that illuminates the emptiness within you. What psychology calls self-worth, Sufism describes as an awareness built on the divine names. To feel valuable is to know the source of your existence is in Allah. Your worth is not hidden in the eyes of others, but in the gaze of the one who created you. And so, from this awareness, one speaks a sacred sentence. Even if I am not enough, my Lord is. This is not a sentence of despair, but of surrender. Not an expression of exhaustion, but of witnessing. Because in your helplessness, the sufficiency of Allah becomes visible. In your incompleteness, the wholeness of Allah shines. Ibn Ata'ullah al-Iskandari says, Allah did not create you to diminish you in your own eyes, but to elevate you in His knowledge. Yet you may still belittle yourself, because humans have grown used to being cruel to themselves. That cruelty takes the form of silence, comparison, guilt, but the common root of all of it is the forgotten divine names. Every name you forget leaves you open to someone else's judgment, and that judgment always deems you not enough. Because people measure you by their own deficiencies, and if you accept that, you live a lifetime feeling incomplete. But one who knows the name El-Kafi realizes this. My lack does not go against Allah's plan. My inadequacy opens a door to His sufficiency. My smallness points to His vastness. And this understanding does not bring the feeling of inadequacy. It brings peace. Sufism says, you cannot truly see your own existence unless you look through the gaze of Allah. And the gaze of Allah is not only forgiving, it is also completing. He does not leave you unfinished. But as long as you see yourself as incomplete, you will never perceive the wholeness within. Sometimes you cannot even admit it to yourself, but inside you, a broken sentence begins to grow. If only I were enough. And at that very moment, you have not only turned your back on yourself, but on Allah too. Because if someone sees you as lacking, they've placed a judgment closer to your heart than Allah Himself. According to Ibn Arabi, this is an injustice against the natural state, fitra, of the heart. And a person learns this injustice first from others, then writes it into themselves, and eventually believes in it. To break this belief, knowledge alone is not enough. It takes a state, a plea, a surrender. And from that surrender, a prayer is born. O Allah, you are my sufficiency. I bear witness not to my lack, but to your completeness. If my own eyes fail me, turn them to your names. This prayer is not merely a phrase, it is a state of the heart. It is to cancel your own judgment and step into Allah's decree. While you belittle yourself, He may be elevating you. While you punish yourself, He may be forgiving you. While you close every door, He may be opening a new one. But you don't look at that door, because that door is within you, and you fear looking inside yourself. Ibn Arabi says, what the servant sees as a flaw within himself is often a secret of divine wisdom that Allah has hidden there. That aspect of yourself you see as weakness might be the secret that draws you closer to Allah. Your sense of inadequacy might be a mercy that protects you from arrogance. Your feeling of incompleteness might be a divine sign redirecting you from people to Allah. But only a heart that knows the name El-Kafi can perceive this. To know the name El-Kafi is not to memorize it. It is to feel it within you. When you pray, you're not only expressing a wish, you're also surrendering your sense of lack. And when Allah says, "I am enough for you," it's not just a response, it's a redirection. He says, "Don't look for you among people. My sufficiency may not appear visible, but I am the one who arrives in every moment of your need." In Sufism, prayer is not made from need. It is made from awareness. And your prayer reveals who you turn to for completion. As long as you try to patch your lacks with your own effort, that door remains open. But when you call upon Allah as your sufficiency, then your sense of lack gains meaning. Because you no longer seek to be completed, you begin to realize you were never incomplete. According to Ibn Arabi, the greatest mistake of the servant is trying to measure themselves. Because you are not the scale, you are the one being weighed. If you think you are the measurer, you will always see yourself as less. But Allah has measured you with His names, and that measure is perfect, not lacking, not excessive, not below, not above, perfectly balanced. Rumi says, "As long as you underestimate yourself, you cannot witness Allah's vastness, because the place where you see lack is where His abundance is hidden." Sufficiency is not about being a lot. It is about belonging to Allah. For where He is, there is no lack. Where He is, there is no incompleteness. Where He is, there is wholeness. But that wholeness cannot be found in the eyes of others. Their understanding does not complete you. Their approval does not define your worth. Your worth has been with Allah since the moment you were created, and He has encompassed you with His name El-Kafi. Psychologists say self-worth must be rooted not in external validation, but in an internal center. Sufism calls this fitri kavam, the natural divine balance within you. You may have disturbed it, but Allah does not disturb it. And Allah loves those who preserve what He created in harmony. You don't become whole when others complete you. You become whole when you accept what you thought was lacking. That's why sometimes someone belittles you, looks at you, finds you unworthy, says something harsh, makes you feel worthless. That is not a curse. It is a purification. Because in that moment, you turn inward. You ask, "Is this really all I am?" And then Allah whispers to you, "Your worth is not in their words. It is in my name." And for the first time, you look at yourself not with anger, but with compassion. And that compassion is the prayer that brings you closest to Allah. To be compassionate toward yourself is to trust in Allah's sufficiency as El-Kafi. It is not trying to complete yourself, but realizing you have already been completed. It is turning your gaze from your inadequacy to His sufficiency. Sometimes people leave. They walk away and leave you feeling incomplete. But what they've taken is only what was outside you. What remains inside is the essence created by the name of Allah, and that essence cannot be diminished. Because Allah's names cannot be diminished. Ibn Arabi says, "Existence on its own is never sufficient, but the one who is with Allah is always complete." And that sentence ends the feeling of inadequacy forever. To live by the name El-Kafi begins with this sentence, "O Allah, I am not enough for myself, but you are enough for me." With this, you empty yourself, and everything that felt lacking begins to be filled with Him. Your own voice grows silent, his voice begins to speak, and it says, "I have already created you whole. If your heart longs for more, watch our video on Rumi's wisdom. It may change your life forever."